Hello and welcome to my Retro Catalogue journey, a podcast where I dust off the nostalgic shopping catalogues and pick out items that trigger wonderful memories. I'm your host Harvey Retro, and today's episode we're going back to a copy of the Nintendo game catalogue from 93-94. Yep, that was the winner of the poll on social media, so that's where our journey will take us. Right, okay then. So, as usual, like on the first episode, we're going to look at some pop culture. So, let's look at 1993-94 movies first. So, of course, you got some absolute giants. Jurassic Park, 1993. Arguably, that's got to be the biggest movie of that year. Definitely. I'm mixing these up. I'm not doing all 93 and then 94. So Forrest Gump from 94 was really big. I remember that one being, like, I loved it at the time, and I watched it like several times sort of that year and maybe like a couple of years after that, but never watched it again. I don't know. It's one of those where it's like once you've seen it a few times during that period, then no reason to go back to it. The Fugitive from 93 with Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones, that's still great now. If you can go back to that now and watch it, it is absolutely brilliant. Just a really good thriller. Who would have thought it? Just like a very old TV show, just made into a movie much later. And it's just absolute smash hit. Made loads of money. Then 94 we got Speed with Keanu Reeves and Dennis Hopper. That was such a good action-packed action movie. Too much action. But that's a really simple concept. You know, everyone knows it. They bomb on the bus, and if you go over 50, the bomb is armed. And is it? No. Yeah. You have to go above 50 for it to be armed. But then if you go below 50, or I can't remember now. I said it's a simple concept, but I can't remember it. But I know that you have to, once you trigger the bomb at a certain speed, then you can't go below a certain speed. I think it's just like 50. It has to be more than 50. Anyway, I'm talking about it too long, but you basically have to go at speed the entire movie. That's why it's called that. Right, Mrs. Doubtfire from 1993, a Robin Williams classic. I heard lately that they were going to try and that some studio wanted to kind of like make an AI version of Robin Williams and try and continue that series. And apparently his daughter was like, absolutely hell no, you're not doing that. And good on her, because who wants that? Who is that for? There's only one Robin Williams. You can't recreate him in AI. It's just, well, they clearly can try and create him in AI, but it's just not going to be him, is it? So what's the point? Anyway, The Mask from 1994, Jim Carrey classic. He was at the height of his fame there, and I think that was Cameron Diaz was in that, and I think that's the first appearance from her. And she was a huge crush when this film comes out. I was like, wow, who is this? You know, and I was obviously a young kid, so it was like a bit of a sexual awakening there. Pulp Fiction 94, right? I wasn't really old enough to see this film in 94. I think I might have seen it later than this. I remember my sister seeing it, and it was like, whatever you do, I know sometimes you get to see these movies before you should be seeing them, but don't watch that because it's not suitable at all. Of course, that kind of makes you want to watch it. But when I did finally watch it, I could see why she was saying that, because it was a controversial movie, and it's still shocking in places, but, you know, of course, fantastic, hilarious, and, you know, it got some really good action, dialogue. Tarantino is a master, you know. And also we got The Crow from 94, the tragic Blandon. It's a tragic movie, and I've just kind of ruined it by dancing over my words. The tragic Brandon Lee film, where I can't say this while I'm laughing. It's really disrespectful, but I'm just laughing at the way I was saying Brandon Lee. But no, it's a really tragic film because he died making that film. So yeah, it's harrowing to watch now thinking about that, but it's still such a classic. And Lion King from '94 is one of the Disney movies, because I don't like all the Disney movies, but that one was one that's still good if you watch it now. And I was, really, really in love with it at the time. And another one from '93, Addams Family Values, way better than the first Addams Family Value, way better than the first Addams Family film. I just love that one. It's a really, really good sequel. One of the there isn't many times when the sequel is better than the first one, but that is a good example. Right, that's enough of movies. So let's go look at music. 1993. Oh God, see, some of these are not exactly songs that are like my favourites, but they were just big at the time, so it's worth mentioning. Like, so one of the pretty much the biggest song of that year was "I Would Do Anything for Love," but I won't do that by Meatloaf. That was huge, absolutely huge. Had that really long. If you listen to the full version, it was stupidly long, like 11 minutes or something. Like a lot of Meatloaf songs. But I remember that the opening just had guitar. It had a lot of guitar, but it had like, before the piano kicked in the song, it just had like motorbike sound effects for about 5 minutes. It's just ridiculous. Right, what else we got? So, No Limit by Two Unlimited, like a trance classic. That's still great now. I would happily put that on now and love it. At the time, I think I remember liking it, but in a funny way. And now, for some reason, I think it's great, like in a cool way. It just sounds absolutely banging. Another like trancey pop kind of one was "What Is Love" by Hadaway. That's an absolute banger. And another big ballad from '93, "I Will Always Love You," Whitney Houston. Obviously the cover of the Dolly Parton track. And also I've got to mention from '93, "Informer" by Snow. That's the famous one. It's just like, "Informer." We had like that famous was it? Yeah, it was a weird. Al Yankovic did a cover of it, didn't he? And I think actually, it might have been on Saturday Night Live or something. I think Jim Carrey did a version of it as well, which was really, really funny. But God, what happened to him? Snow. Of course, because he was white and he was like a sort of. He was a rapper, but he was like a white kind of reggae rapper. Really interesting. It would have been good if he'd done some more stuff, but he just had that, big hit, really. I can't remember anything else that he did. Let's look at '94 then. Oh, God. "Love Is All Around," Wet, Wet, Wet. God, what an awful band, Wet, Wet. That song was massive, because it was on Four Weddings and a Funeral, wasn't it? So a lot of movie songs, if the movie was big, the song was big. And vice versa. A lot of the times, if the song was big, also people would go to the movie as well. And what else we got? Saturday Night by Wakefield. God. That's one of those really bad, cheesy pop songs, which was, I guess it was great. I mean, it's very catchy. See, this next one, "I Swear" by All For One. I bought the single on cassette. I absolutely loved that one. If you don't remember it, it's the one that goes, "I swear by the moon and the stars in the sky, I'll be there." I mean, they were like probably the only kind of boy band I remember really liking, because they were basically a boy band, but they were kind of like R&B boy band, I guess. And what else we got? So, oh yes, "Baby Come Back." That one by Pato Banton. That's the one that's got the "But bye 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 bye, I must admit I was a clown." That one. God, I don't know if that was the best impression. Well, anyway. we got Things Can Only Get Better by D Ream. That was a big song as well. And I've got to always mention Bon Jovi if he's in there, because I was a big Bon Jovi fan, a big part of my childhood. And he had Always, that big ballad of his called Always in 94, which was huge as well. So that's some cool, not necessarily cool songs, but well-known big songs from 94. TV-wise, so 93 in the UK, these are four that spring to mind. So Goodnight Sweetheart was, for some reason, absolutely massive. I did watch it, but I've got, when looking back, thinking back a bit at it now, I don't know why it was so massive. It had what's his? I can't remember his name now. Not David Jason, the other guy from Only Fools and Horses. Nicholas Lyndhurst, that's it. Yeah, and it was just a time traveling sort of comedy drama thing. So he was like, he discovered like a portal that went back to 1940s wartime, and he just decided to go back and ended up falling in love with someone in the 40s. And it was a weird story because he was basically cheating on his wife in the modern day with this woman in the 40s. And you were supposed to kind of root for this guy, but he just... and he ends up... spoilers for Goodnight Sweetheart, but he ends up actually, like, leaving his wife from modern day and just wanting to be with the one in the 40s, and without properly sort of telling... Well, I think he does tell her in the end. Yeah, let me know in the comments. Did he actually tell his modern day wife? I think he perhaps did admit it in the end, but that's where he wanted to end up and stay in the 40s. He had to pick one in the end. Animals of Farthing Wood, a fantastic but really harrowing animation, like cartoon from 93 that started in 93, I guess, and that was just like, it was just really sad. I mean, you did get animations that are really sad. Obviously, like Watched It Down was really horrific, but it was a proper drama about animals, and you know, basically they were in a wood that was gonna be mowed down most of the time. That was the big threat, and they had to keep moving around and kind of trying to prevent it happening or something. It was years ago since I saw it, but I just remember it being heartbreaking. So Robbie Coltrane had a drama called Cracker in 93, which I remember like staying up at night to like watch that, and there was some really creepy episodes of Cracker, really gripping thriller. It was horrific at times. Trying to remember. I think Robert Carlyle had his debut in that as like a murderer, and he was really chilling in that. And of course, I've got to add Eurotrash. I think that debuted in 93, and I think I was a bit too young in 93 to be watching that or staying up to watch it. I think I watched it in later years, but obviously that was one of those where it's got boobs in it, so let's watch it. But it had some really weird stuff, just a random mix of kind of like European TV and showing you what's going on in the rest of the world. Weird stuff with a few like shots of boobs, so of course I'm going to be interested in that at a certain stage in my life. Let's look at 94. So the Fast Show is still great now. If you go back and watch that sketch show, the Fast Show, it's hilarious. It's a really, really good comedy sketch show. That was really big. These are all 94. These picks that I've got, they're all comedies apart from the last one, which so the next one, Room 101, I really liked. That was the one where they basically, the guests had to pick out something, a few things actually on the show, where I want to get rid of this thing, put it in Room 101, and it'll never be seen again. It's like almost like you're erasing it from the earth, and they had to give a good sort of like a good set of reasons why they think this thing should be erased, basically. And it was quite funny. It had some good reasons and good things that went in there. Vicar of Dibley was a really, really good TV show with Dawn French. I went to see like a theatre production, like an amateur theatre production of like a stage version of Vicar of Dibley recently, actually. And it was really good. They really captured the atmosphere and the characters within that show from the 90s. And yeah, I was quite impressed with that. It was really nice. And this fourth one is a bit of a curveball because it's not a comedy show. But this is when the National Lottery Draw TV show, TV was... It was basically like a TV show which had the National Lottery result. And the reason why I mention it, because I remember vivid memories of it had like these predictions by this Mystic Meg, who was like an astrologer, and she was like, she would just give like indications of who she thinks will win, and it was really weird things like a builder and a bin man and a person with a name beginning with M will be celebrating too. Like that. It was vague rubbish, really. Really, really vague. But it's such a weird thing to have that on like primetime television. Like, I suppose people were skeptical sort of back then. But yeah, that's it was a really funny thing that happened on that show, but it was really cool. And unfortunately, she died a couple of years ago. She died in 2023, I believe, and she was I think she was 80. But I only remember being on TV in the 90s, maybe actually to the noughties as well. And I don't know. Yeah, I think she was on the lottery until the noughties, but that's it anyway. Let's get this catalogue. Well, I'm dancing over words. Let's get this catalogue up on screen. So I've got some notes because I don't want to. It's obviously with it being a podcast, I don't want to keep browsing for too long and have a lot of dead air. So of course, I've got some notes. This is a bit of a weird. I've kind of tripped myself up a little bit here because I decided from the beginning with this show that I was gonna ask on social media and have a poll of what topics and what catalogues you want me to do. And I thought I'll do Sega versus Nintendo, kind of hoping that people might go with Sega because I was a Sega kid. But of course, people have gone for Nintendo, and I didn't have a Nintendo apart from a Game Boy. So that there might not be like a lot of things I recognise, especially exclusives. So a lot of the things I've got made notes on are not necessarily exclusive Nintendo games. They're games that came out on other platforms, and I remember playing them on the other platforms. So this is going to be a pretty weird one, but I'm sure there's still going to be some like hilarious little things. So what have I got? So I think right at the beginning of the catalogue, I've got some notes on that, but let's have a look at the first opening page and see what this is and what it says about it. Let's read the welcome bit. So, welcome to the Nintendo Game Catalogue of '94. Inside these pages, you will find the hottest new games, as well as some future releases, all categorized so that you can look out your favorite type of game without having to wade through the lists of other titles. With Christmas coming up and the wealth of new releases, this is the place to look for those extra special games. There's also information on the three main Nintendo machines, the very latest update on future Nintendo developments, plus details of Nintendo's unique consumer services and gameplay hotline. Oh, they had their hotlines back then, didn't they? Because you didn't go on the internet to look up tips and stuff like that. You just had to ring a hotline or watch something like shows like Games Master, which had tips on games. As if that wasn't enough, we've also crammed in a special feature on Starwing, complete with the hot tips on defeating the bad guys on the first level. It's nincredible. God, really bad pun there. And here's a table, and these like basically the table of contents for the catalogue. But I've already got some notes of what pages I want to look at. So I've got straight away page 3, Asterix. So I didn't have this on Nintendo. I played this on Master System, Sega Master System, and I borrowed it from a friend in my class. And I remember the platformer on Master System being a pretty good version of it, actually. I reckon it would have been a lot more watered down than the SNES one, but perhaps a bit more advanced than the Game Boy one. And it looks like they didn't do it for the NES. So the NES was the equivalent of the Master System in terms of, it was an 8-bit kind of thing. But looking at these pictures here, it looks quite like the Master System one, the SNES one. Another reason why I wanted to look at Asterix is because if you look at his... if you're watching the video, if you look at his design, Asterix was a really good character design. And a lot of like cartoons back then, like cartoon characters, I was really inspired to try and like draw them if they had a really good design. And Asterix was one of those. I practiced drawing him and got actually quite good at drawing him. He's got a lot of nice sort of shapes to his face, and he's got the hat, the helmet with the wings on it, and it's just. You just look at him, and if you're into drawing, you just want to try and draw him immediately. And it was just a kind of, definitely one of those characters. What shall I read about this? It says, the famed French Gaul makes his way to both the SNES and Game Boy courtesy of Infogrames in the all-new platform game, packed full of the sort of Roman-bashing action that the comic book character is renowned for. The game follows his exploits through the numerous levels in the search of his friend Obelix. He needs to find him quick, otherwise Caesar will have him thrown to the lions. So that's the bit. I won't read the whole thing, but that's the premise of the game. But yeah, I remember it being a really good, fun platformer, basically. What else we got? So, yes, this is a classic. Let's go to page 6 and let's have a look at this, because this was brilliant. So, Batman Returns. What does it say about that? So, it's got ratings on here like a magazine, so they're giving it 90%. Right, let's read it, and then I'll give my memories of it. I'll read it first. So, Batman Returns, it was only on the SNES. I think you did this particular version, the scrolling beat 'em up, was only on the SNES. There was a weird version on the Sega Mega Drive, which I'll talk about. But it says about Batman Returns, the Dark Knight is back. Get ready for action of the highest degree as Batman battles the Penguin and Catwoman and cleans up the streets of Gotham in true Super NES style. Large, detailed, and well-animated graphics really bring to the fore the atmosphere of the movie. While the beat-em-up action is almost non-stop, there is even an interlude where you get the chance to control the Batmobile as it roars through the city streets. And it's a quote here. It says, a top-notch beat-em-up from NMS. Yeah, I'd agree with all that little write-up. It's basically Streets of Rage, but with Batman. It's a good game to play. It was a good Christmassy game. Obviously, Batman Returns is set around Christmas time. So I had lots of memories. Even though I didn't have it, I'd go around to my friend, my friend Rob, he had it. We went round to his house and we'd play it a lot. But I could never get that far on it, so I was mostly watching him play it, getting really far. And I went back to playing that in recent years. It's still really good. It still really looks great as well. It looks like an arcade game, and it was like a 16-bit console game, but it was fantastic. Oh yeah, I was going to mention, there was Batman Returns on the Mega Drive, which wasn't a beat 'em up. It was a platformer, and it was terrible. It was, God, if you like me and only had a Mega Drive / Genesis at this time, and you thought, well, yeah, I'll get Batman Returns, and you ended up with that weird thing. It was really, really difficult, and it was just basically a platform game. It wasn't anything like this at all. This was the best one. This was the good one. Right, what's next on my list? So, next page. Okay, let's go back to that then. Page 7. Oh, God, I've just seen now. I haven't got this on my list, but because it's on the same page, I'll talk about it. They did a game of The Hunt for Red October. It seems like a weird thing to make a game out of. I mean, it can't have been the most exciting game. I don't remember playing it. But the movie, I remember being very slow. I couldn't watch it as a kid. Right, so let's look on the next page. Oh, this is huge. It's Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Again, I played this a lot around friends' houses, and many would argue that it was the best console version. But I had Street Fighter 2 Special Champion Edition on the Sega Mega Drive. And what I remember people arguing about in terms of, I think they played very similar in terms of the look of them and the animations like that. The only thing that really was noticeably different was the SNES could kind of do better sound in a way. So a lot of the sounds were kind of like the moves like the Hadouken and stuff like that were like clearer on the SNES. But I don't know, Sega Mega Drive had a lot of charm to its audio. It had a bit of crunch to it, and it was kind of like whenever you had like rock music and stuff, it had like almost like sounded like it was crunchy and distorted, and it just sounded nice. But some people saw that as like a flaw. But I don't know. So I guess because some of the voices didn't sound so good, like when the characters were shouting the special moves, they did sound better on the SNES. And I remember my friend having this Super Nintendo version and saying, "Oh, my version's way better because all the moves when they shout them, they sound really good." And I was kind of agreeing with him, but at the same time, I was like, "There's not much different, mate. There's not much difference. It looks the same and they play very similar." But I remember, like, God, it was really expensive. I remember, I've said this before on a video or numerous times, that Street Fighter 2 Special Champion Edition, and I presume Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the SNES was a lot as well, but I remember getting it for Christmas. And I remember seeing it in the catalogue. It was like, I think it was $59.99 in like 1994. So wow. Anyway, they're giving this 97%, and that's deserved because it is a really, really great game. But I think I had some more bits in my notes about this. Instead of reading, everyone knows what Street Fighter 2 is. I don't really need to read the thing is. I was just gonna see what I'd written in my notes about it. Oh, yeah, that was it. So I absolutely loved Ryu. I called him Ryu back then, but I think now I know that you're supposed to pronounce it Ryu. But I idolized him, and I remember saying to someone, "Can your idol be a computer game character?" and my mum or dad was like saying, "Well, I guess so, but do you really want a pixelated character to be your idol?" And I said, "Yeah, but he's so mysterious and cool, and he's really good at karate." And it's I remember, like, I was always doing like the pose that he did around the house, where his fighting stance, I'd randomly do his fighting stance in the kitchen, and his Hadouken pose, And my mum would tell me off for saying, why are you always doing that weird pose? And she didn't know what it was. And I was telling her, it's Ryu or it's Ryu. But I've got vivid memories of, this is peak 90s, making a soda stream in the kitchen. I don't know the flavour. The memory isn't that detailed. But when I was preparing it with my friend and my mum was there, I was just like doing Ryu's fighting stance in the kitchen, perhaps as I was pumping the soda stream. And then doing some like kicks around a very large kitchen we had at that particular time. So there was a lot of floor space for me to run across and do a flying kick. But God, yeah, I absolutely loved Ryu. Now, in later years, if I play Street Fighter now, which isn't that often, it's kind of interesting because I play as his arch nemesis more often. So I'm more of a Sagat man now. But I mean, obviously, reasons why for that is because he's got a lot of similar moves, but he's very strong. And I can defeat a lot of people quickly with a few moves with Sagat. When I try Ryu now or Ken, I find it a lot more tougher than I do with Sagat. But yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, what we got next? Let's go to page 9. Because we've got a nice thing on page 9. Let's have a look at that. So page 9 is... let's have a look here. Where have we got it? What am I looking for? Oh, yes, I wanted to mention this. Sunset Riders. Again, this is more of a... I remember this being in the arcade more than I remember it being on console. And... it was basically like a scrolling shoot. It'd be like a bit scrolling beat 'em up, but it was just you walking down the western streets and you're actually shooting bad guys instead of fighting them with your fists. But I remember just looking at it in the arcade and thinking, "Oh, this looks fantastic!" And I'd put money into it to play it, and I'd get killed immediately. So I don't remember I think watching it more often than playing it, but it was just one of those really good times because it was like Western stuff it was quite popular in the 90s, in a lot of like the games and TV stuff like that. It was a bit of a revival in the 90s of Western type stuff. But for me, it was important because there was a theme park in the 90s and we stayed there till the noughties as well, called the American Adventure, and it was just like an American Western themed park with a lot of roller coasters and just your average theme park. It wasn't massive, but it was huge at one point, and it was like the go-to place. Like you'd from where I'm from, you'd either go to Alton Towers or you'd go to American Adventure. They were the big two at one particular time, and it's hard to kind of describe what it felt like going to theme parks like that. It was like a magic kind of feeling, and it sounds really cheesy, but like it was really sad when I got to a certain age when theme parks didn't have that like feeling anymore, where it feels like you're in a magical place. I remember just seeing them. I just got to a certain age where you just see things as they are rather than in a childlike fantasy type way. It was so sad when that happened. I think it was actually when I was in sort of secondary school and we went to Alton Towers. And every time I used to love going to Alton Towers, used to get really excited, and I was excited for this particular time. And we went there, and I remember just walking around, and we're going on the rides, going through the motions, and the magic had gone. And even though I still like going to theme parks, it was nothing will ever be as good as that time before the magic feeling was lost in theme parks. And I used to have that massively American Adventure and Alton Towers. There was some great theming as well. It helped because of the theming in American Adventure was great. You'd go in and you could see the whole park because the entrance had quite a high point, so you had to go down steps to get to the lower parts. But because you started at height when you came out of the main sort of entrance area, you could see loads of the stuff you could visit. And they had this massive well, they just had loads of structures, like really big Western structures, and they had like the Mount. It was like a Mount Rushmore kind of thing. They built this thing. It had like faces, like cowboys and Indians on. It was huge, like fiberglass structure. All that kind of stuff. When you're a kid, it just looks really impressive, and that's probably where the whole magic side of things comes from. But that was why I love Sunset Riders, because I was thinking about things like the American Adventure and watching games like Sunset Riders, and it's just elevating up that magic feeling, you know. So what we got next? Right, page 12. Let's go have a look at that. So page 12, we've got Zombies here, which in the UK they extended the title. It's called Zombies Ate My Neighbours, which I think is way better. If you just call the game Zombies, it's a bit vague. Zombies Ate My Neighbours gives it the vibe of gives you a sense of what the game is more, because it sounds a bit more like one of those comedies, like a cult movie comedies from the 80s or 90s. And that's what it was, basically. It had that whole vibe of like The Burbs, or like like there's movies like My Stepmom is an Alien, or things like that. Those kind of titles that were really like sort of catchy and culty. It had that kind of vibe, and it was just a top-down like adventure game where you get a horror like themed adventure game where you're going around like the neighborhood and trying to get rid of all the rescue all the people and get rid of all the zombies and stuff. What does it say? So this is on the SNES. Your neighbors are going missing. Monsters have invaded your home. What's a guy to do? Blast those zombies, that's what. Fantastic action ensues as you chase the zombies, ghouls, and monsters from the neighborhood. Zombies is as funny as it is playable. Yeah, so this is one of those games though where I really wanted it for years and years and years, and I never actually owned it. I think I rented it because I'm sure. Did I rent it? I can't remember if it was released on the Mega Drive or not. It probably was. I remember playing it. But anyway, I didn't ever own it until recently, like a few years ago. It had a remaster or just a port. I think they did remaster it on the PS4. And unfortunately, it was one of those situations where it's like too much time has passed. I'd wanted to play it like in depth for many, many years, but the moment had passed, and I had a quick go on it when I got it, but that was it. I never went back to it. It's really sad sometimes when that happens. You're waiting to play a game properly for years and years, finally get it, magic's gone. Right, we've got Zool here. Zool, I played on the Amiga. And I've got lots of good memories playing this game, because I used to go around to one of my friend's house every day after school, and he had an Amiga and lots of really good games. And I remember thinking, wow, these Amiga was really high-end looking graphics for that period. It looked like you were playing an arcade game in your home. And Zool looked really, really good on the Amiga. And again, that's another character where the character's design is absolutely brilliant, and is one that you always want to try and draw. He had a bit of a vibe of Sonic to him. He had that kind of like attitude looking. His face was kind of like, I don't know. I've got a vibe that he was like a bit like Sonic, and they wanted him to be as popular as Sonic. I've got memories of him, like his poses and stuff, and he had these huge eyes, and he was kind of like a little alien. He looked like an alien ninja, didn't he? See what it says about it. So Zool, and this is talking about the SNES and Game Boy versions. It says the home computer superstar has now found his way via the nth dimension to the Super NES and Game Boy, with all the action that his games have become renowned for intact on both the SNES and the Game Boy. Your quest is to ensure that the nth dimension, your imagination, is kept free from the evil thoughts of Cruel and his sidekick, Mental Block. 8 worlds with 4 levels in each, 4 on the Game Boy, confront you such as the sweet world, in which such things as sweet beasties lob jelly beans at you, the music world, where you have to deal with the fighting repertoires of the walking drums and flying cymbals, as well as 6 other action-packed levels. It goes without saying that the graphics match the gameplay. Yeah, that was a good game. It was never as it wanted to be like the home computer's version of Sonic, basically, on the Amiga, but it was never had that kind of amount of fame. But it was really good. I think it came out on the Atari Jaguar as well, actually. A lot of Amiga games got ported to the Jaguar and looked surprisingly good, because Jaguar was not 64-bit, even though it claimed it was. But games like Zool would look really good on there. Right, so what have we got next? 15. Let's have a look at page 15. Okay. Right. Yeah, Bubsy the Bobcat. So, I had this on Mega Drive. And again, this is another character. They're always trying to get a huge, massive kind of character as the next big thing, like your Sonic or whatever. Bubsy never reached that high of fame, and he almost like had like this weird status where I remember they remade, like they did like a remaster of like all the Bubsy games lately, and I remember like there was an article about it, and it was like people were saying, who is this for? Who likes Bubsy that much? It was I felt quite sad for the old Bobcat. So what does it say about Bubsy? Claws encounters of the third kind await in Bubsy the Bobcat. Bubsy is up against the warped woolies who want to steal his supply of yarn balls. He has to traverse 16 levels in search of the balls, dealing with the water slides, roller coaster. Oh, that was what I had a mental block then. It had these roller coasters on it, which we always called pig in hell roller coasters, because they had like very, very steep slopes. They're almost like vertical drops, and that like made us go pig in hell as a reaction when we saw them. Anyway, and all manners of weird and wonderful obstacles. The graphics are stunning, while the action is frenetic. Seeing Bubsy negotiate his way across woolly-infested suburbs, rocky terrain, and grassy green fields. I don't remember it being overly woolly. That's weird. But yeah. Right, what have we got next? Oh yeah, okay, let's look at this page. So this is page 18 and 19 has got information about the actual consoles themselves. So it says, if you want video games, look no further. The Nintendo consoles are at the very forefront of the industry. There's lots of like bits where I'm trying to say the word and it's breaking the word up with the line. I hate it when like magazines and things do that. Just have the word on the next line. Not only do you have a choice of 3 different systems to suit your preference and pocket, you can also choose your games from the very best software library in the world. Right, Super Nintendo. Sets available. SNES and Street Fighter 2 Turbo Edition. SNES and Mario All-Stars. I really remember these boxes. Even though I didn't have one of these, I've got vivid memories of computer game shops and the Street Fighter 2 Turbo one and the Mario All-Stars, because the game art was massive on the box. The Starwing one as well. Oh, I remember my friend had the Super Scope set. Stupid. The worst light gun ever, like a rocket launcher on your shoulder. And I think they only released the cartridge of games where it was basically like a mix of basic crappy games for the scope, and I don't remember them releasing many other games that you could play for the scope. So it's one of those stupid accessories. What does it say then about the Super Nintendo? 32,000 colours, CD quality sound. I'm not sure it was CD. It was better quality than the Mega Drive. I wouldn't say it was CD because it's not on a CD, it's on a cartridge. The Mega CD or Sega CD did have actual CD quality sound on it. But anyway, unique special effects such as scaling and rotation, 16 megabit of power. It's the most technically advanced cartridge-based console on the market. So don't accept second best. Nodding at Sega there. There's also the largest selection of bundles to choose from. There's the action of Starwing and Street Fighter 2 Turbo, the adventure of Mario All-Stars, and the remote action of the Super Scope. Something to cover all tastes. What we got here then? So the Score Master for SNES. Now you can enjoy realistic arcade action with the realistic arcade style joystick, precise movements, and ultra responsive buttons, along with turbo features, make playing games all the more exciting. It's perfect for the likes of Street Fighter 2 Turbo and Final Fight, in which fast and direct movements are necessary to pull off the special maneuvers. While it will also prove an advantage when trying to crack those action and sports games, if you're looking for the ultimate in play control, then look no further than the Score Master. I had no memory of the arcade stick for SNES being called the Score Master. I remember the look of it, and I remember all the buttons and everything. I just don't remember it being called the Score Master. Wow. So, what else we got? The Nintendo Super Scope. I've got to read this because I've got to hear them try and big this thing up because it was awful. The Super Scope offers a whole different kind of gameplay experience. The design of the gun means that you can sit or stand when blasting at the on-screen nasties, while the cordless control and pinpoint accuracy gives you a response like never before. The scope comes with 6 games and never any more, each offering plenty of challenge for the sharpshooters, while there are other games to purchase later. Well, okay, so it is mentioning some of the games, but did they come out? There wasn't many. So it says in Battle Clash and the all-new Yoshi's Safari, in which Mario and his dinosaur pal face a whole load of Plumber's old enemies. Of the Plumber's old enemies. Right, and the NES, they're still selling the NES back then. It's quite late in this system's life then, but no, you can still get one. And the sets available for this were the one with Super Mario Brothers, or Mario Brothers 3, or the standalone. And it says, the NES is the console that kicked off the whole Nintendo craze and has helped it sustain, to sustain it ever since. Colourful graphics and great sound are combined with the guts of the console to give you a platform capable of handling some of the best games that money can buy. Mario also began his home entertainment adventure on the NES, so it's appropriate that you can find his games in bundles available. Super Mario Brothers is a classic and has tested game players for the last 6 or 7 years with its gripping action. Super Mario Bros. 3 sees the Italian plumber in 8 new worlds in an all colourful and action-packed adventure. Yeah, I always wanted a NES. Actually, I remember wanting a NES more than a Super NES. When the NES came out, I had a ZX Spectrum. Quite a difference in graphics and load times, I'll tell you that. But because of my longing for wanting a NES, I did eventually buy a NES later in life as an adult. And I must admit, out of all the consoles, retro consoles, when I'm going to go back and play a game, more often than not, it's going to be a NES one. Even though I have literally like no nostalgia for it other than wanting one, the longing of wanting one. So, Game Boy is the only Nintendo console from this era that I did have. So let's look what it says about the Game Boy. Sets available with Tetris or just standalone. I thought there was more sets than that. The Game Boy is the world's favourite handheld, which is no surprise considering the quality and quantity of the games. This is the one system that is truly universal, with everyone, including numerous film and music stars, being able to find games from the vast library to suit their tastes. The price is staggeringly low. It can be bought for as little as $39.99. I thought this was an American catalogue because it had zombies, not Zombies Ate My Neighbours. Anyway, while many of the games come in at under £20, one of the most addictive games of all time is bundled with the Game Boy. Tetris is responsible for much brain testing, reflex challenging action. The concept is pretty straightforward, but when put to the test, it becomes one very absorbing pastime. Right, yeah, so that was brilliant. I definitely still think that the NES, I know the NES isn't it wasn't as powerful, but there's something about the NES, the design, the 80s aesthetic of the NES, it looks stunning. I just think it's just a really, really nicely designed console. So is the Game Boy, actually. The Game Boy looks beautiful as well. Anyway, let's move on. So 22. Let's have a look at page 22. Yes. Right. Jurassic Park. I mentioned it in the opening that the movie was huge. So you got the games, of course. And I think, from what I remember, the SNES version was the best version of Jurassic Park. There's no pictures of it in here, annoyingly. But I played more of the Mega Drive one, of course, which was a side-on sort of. It was a platformer, and the craziest thing about the Mega Drive one was the fact that you could play as Sam Neill's character, Alan Grant, or you could play as a raptor. It's such an edgy Mega Drive thing. No, you can play as the raptor on this one. But on the SNES one, it was a better game, I believe, and it was sort of like top-down. A bit like Zombies Ate My Neighbors is that kind of thing where it's top-down and you kind of going across around the parks, various activities, electrocuting. I'm pretty sure you had some kind of gun that allowed you kind of to like stun the dinosaurs. Might be wrong. What does it say about it? It might jog my memory. Welcome to Jurassic Park, Ocean Software's conversion of the biggest movie of recent times. In the role of Grant, you have to search the park for your lost colleagues, avoiding the roaming dinosaurs where possible, and attempting to reach the security's SYS. Oh, this is again, it's like putting the half the word on the line, and I've got to I'm thinking it's an abbreviation. The security systems, in order to switch them back on. This is so much more than a straight action adventure. Graphics and sound recreate the thrilling atmosphere of the film. The action will have you gripping your controller in anticipation. Mess with the genetics at your own peril. It's not a great article. I wish it had the some screenshots from the game. All it has, I'll describe it for the audio version, is every like box art version. And every version has just got the Jurassic Park logo on it. So it's like it's got, well, actually, yeah, it's weird. It's got one it doesn't need even. It's got one that's like a really big logo, just says Ocean, which is like a poster type thing. And then it's got the Super Nintendo box art. It's got the Game Boy box art, and I'm guessing the NES. Yeah, the NES box art. All the same. It's got the logo 3 times, and then the logo behind the text. It's a really ugly looking article. My God. It's not selling it to me at all. Right, let's look at another page. So number 24. Yeah, this is going to be interesting because since getting a Switch 2, when that came out, I've gone back to a bit of Zelda. Not gone back as far as this, which is obviously NES and Game Boy and SNES Zelda, but I have gone back to Ocarina of Time simply because I'd heard so much about that game being an absolute masterpiece that's timeless, that it was one of those, it's a must play. You've got to go back to play it. And I've got this really sad sort of feeling that I should have played it when it was at the time when it came out. And I've got, even when I look at older Zelda games like these on this page, I've got the same feeling. I'm feeling like I should have, I just missed out, because I probably would have absolutely loved these back in the day. But I don't think some of these older ones, I don't think I'll appreciate them now, because I might do. But it might be like the whole situation I said earlier about Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Sometimes, you go back to an old game you wanted to play or you think you might like, and it's just, you missed your moment. It's not the same anymore. But Ocarina of Time, I enjoyed that more than Breath of the Wild, and I know that's crazy to say, because obviously Breath of the Wild is, well, it's probably to some people it isn't crazy to say, but Breath of the Wild I still haven't finished because it's so huge, and there's a lot of annoyance in that game. It is a beautiful game, and it's stunning to look at, and it's really well designed. But you've got annoyances like weapons break all the time, and I hate that. It's like, I understand if you've got like a wooden staff or something, but you'll pick up a broadsword and it'll break like within a few hours. How would a broadsword snap that easily? It's crazy. So that really annoys me. And the fact that it's a bit too big sometimes. You feel like you just want to go and do a quest, and you find that, yeah, it takes you ages to get there, and not in a good way. It's kind of a bit boring. The world sometimes is quite empty, but it's massive. Whereas when I was playing Ocarina of Time, the world isn't that big, but there's lots to do, and it's just feels timeless with really, really tough puzzles, which I appreciated because I'm a big Tomb Raider fan, and it reminded me of the puzzles in the early Tomb Raider games, a lot of the puzzles in that game. So yeah, I'm not really looking at this stuff on this page because this is Zelda I haven't played, but this artwork and these screenshots do look fantastic. But I just wanted to give a little bit of airtime to Ocarina of Time because I absolutely love that one. And if they remake it, which that is still up in the air, like, oh, it's gonna come out, it's people are saying it's been leaked, things like that. If they have a remake of Ocarina of Time, it might be weird because I've just played the original recently, but I'm sure it'll be very different, and I think it would still be really, really good to play now, even though I've just played the original. Right, let's move on. So, this is the last page. So the last page I'm going to look at is Cool Spot. So this is a weird example of a 90s mascot, a really odd 90s mascot. So this is the Cool Spot, was the spot in the 7-Up logo. There's a red spot in the logo for the 7-Up drink. And this is what that character was. He was like, that spot had come to life. It's a really, really odd concept. And he's very 90s. He's got big shades on. He's got big white Mickey Mouse style white gloves. He's got big white trainers on. In all the pictures, like all the art you see, all the posters, the game art, he's always surfing. It's such a weird, like, sponsorship. It's like the money for this game was just obviously from 7-Up. Just like, yeah, we want to like sell loads of pop, so we'll make this game. It's just like, so people just keep buying 7-Up. And there's even, I think there's a level where you were surfing on a massive like can or bottle of 7-Up. It's just a weird thing. I do remember quite liking the character, but I don't know why. I think it was just because he was drawn quite well. What does it say about Cool Spot on SNES? Cool Spot has a real thorn in his side in the form of wild, wicked Willy Will, who has captured and enslaved loads of spots. Cool Spot, being a hip kind of guy, sets off to rescue his friends from a life of captivity. Would you like to be... Would you like... This isn't worded. This has got spelling errors. Would you like to be stared at by a bunch of ugly humans all day long? It should be. Would you like, or would you have liked, or would you like to be stared at? It's a typo. I'm thinking I'm not reading it correctly. That is a typo. Would you like to be stared at by a bunch of ugly humans all day long? 11 levels full of great visuals and gameplay. Face the brave Cool Spot. Even with his amazing agility, he will find it tough defeating Willie and Co. Right. God. No mention of 7-Up at all there, but I do remember that level. Right, so that is it. Right, so that's it. That's the episode of the podcast, 1993-94 Nintendo stuff. Really interesting, catalogue, but it was, as I said, it was a bit weird because I think most people would be expecting to hear loads of stuff about exclusives, like memories of exclusives from that particular time, but I didn't play them, so you didn't get that. This also would be the section normally where I would talk about comments from social media, but for some reason, even though they all voted for me to look at this Nintendo catalogue, there's a lot of likes and a lot of views on some of these posts. No one commented on Nintendo stuff. I think it's perhaps because a lot of the people that voted weren't the same people who comment on my posts, because a lot of my friends who post a lot of comments on social media, and a lot of people I know, or the usual type familiar faces that comment on my stuff, I think they were all Sega people. So I don't know why I ended up doing the Nintendo thing. Maybe it's just because of different audiences, I don't know. But anyway, so I actually got no comments to read out this week, this time, so that's annoying. But yeah, anyway, I really liked this episode. It was really interesting to go back to the 93-94 Nintendo stuff, and I'll be coming out with a new episode soon. I might go back to another regular shopping catalogue one, or I might have I'll look around and see what else I can bring to you. But of course, I'll put all that on social media so you can vote for what you want me to talk about. Anyway, I'm Harvey Retro, and I'll see you in the future, talking about the past. Bye!
Fancy supporting Retro Rewind in the best possible way? Head over to buymeacoffee.com/Harvey Retro and choose from 2 options. To unlock exclusive videos by yours truly and guests, select membership and join Harvey's AV Club for £3 a month. Or, if you'd rather, just say thank you without joining the club, select support and buy us a VHS tape, which is a single £5 contribution, and don't forget to tell us which classic you're adding to our library, as it might inspire me to review that movie in future. And that's it.